Controlling your temperature is one of the best ways to help improve your sleep. But the problem is that this is really often overlooked. A lot of people don't seem to understand how big of a difference changing your temperature or that thermostat will do. So you might not have noticed this, but it's usually easier to fall asleep and stay asleep when it's a little too cold versus when it's a little too hot. And the reason is, to successfully initiate sleep, our body temperature has to drop about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 1 degree Celsius. And you might also be surprised to find that the ideal room temperature for most people is going to be about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. You might think that's extremely cold, but I'm going to get into why that is the optimal temperature. So one way to actually control your core body temperature is going to be by changing the temperature on the surface of your skin. And if you want to know the best places to actually help control your body temperature, it's going to be 3 areas on your body. It's going to be your feet, your hands, and your head. Those are the 3 areas of our body where most of our thermal work is being done. So if you change the body temperature on those 3 key areas, that's going to help the most to help control your core body temperature. So if you ever wondered why when kids are tucked in so neatly under their sheets and they look like a perfect model kid when they're sleeping, but when they wake up, their hands and their feet are out of the blanket, it's usually because they're naturally trying to control their core body temperature to help them get to that lower core body temperature to fall asleep quicker. Now, you might be wondering why we need to sleep in a colder environment and why our body core temperature drops when we're sleeping. Well, this is exactly how humans evolved. So human sleeping patterns actually evolved on the eastern parts of Africa. And if you look at these areas, they actually have pretty extreme fluctuations in their temperature throughout a single day. So in the winter, their temperatures will change about 14 degrees in a single day. And in the summer, it'll change about 12 degrees throughout the day. But now, if we fast forward, our temperatures are kind of controlled. So if we're inside all day, we have this constant thermostat temperature where our temperature never really changes. So if we go before all this AC stuff, our temperature in the winter would change 14 degrees throughout a single day. And that's how we were evolved. But now there is hardly any fluctuation in our temperature. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I love the fact that I have a heater and an air conditioner in my house where I can control my body temperature and actually be comfortable all the time and not having to freeze or be sweating like crazy in the summer. But the problem with this is when we have that constantly controlled temperature and our brains don't get that cooling sensation when it's nighttime, that means that our body is not going to get as much of a melatonin release. Now, one of the key things that helps you go to sleep is your body's melatonin release. And this is basically controlled by your body's circadian rhythm, or your 24-hour cycle of your body. And at nighttime, typically is when your melatonin will peak. And this will be a signal for your body to go to sleep. But another signal is also a drop in body temperature. So if you're not getting that drop in body temperature, you're not going to get as high of a peak of that melatonin release. So there is also a study done by some scientists to help us demonstrate our body temperature needs during the night. So they had people wear these whole body sleeping suits, and they're basically these wetsuits where these scientists could control the temperature by controlling the water flow in certain areas. So if they wanted to cool someone's feet or cool someone's hand, they could do that during the study. And what they found is by manipulating this wetsuit temperature and actually manipulating people's core body temperature, they were able to help people fall asleep faster and also stay asleep more throughout the night. So in this study, they actually showed a 20% improvement in people's ability to fall asleep in regular healthy people. And in elderly people who regularly struggle with falling asleep, they actually had an 18% improvement. And actually, I think the most impressive thing was in insomniac. So people who have insomnia are usually people who have trouble falling asleep and trouble staying asleep. By simply controlling their body temperature, they had a 25% increase in their ability to fall asleep. And another really impressive part of the study was people's ability to stay asleep throughout the night. So before the study, people had about a 58% probability of waking up in the later parts of the night and not being able to go back to sleep. But during the study, that plummeted to just 4%. So while they were controlling their body temperature, now they had hardly any chance of waking up during the night and struggling to go back to sleep. So you can see how big of a difference simply controlling your body temperature and controlling your thermostat can make. So if your thermostat is regularly around 70 degrees throughout the day, try turning it down to 65 a few nights and see if that improves your sleep. And luckily, there are other ways to help induce this dropping of your core body temperature that are a lot easier than wearing a wetsuit as well. And one of these ways is actually something that a lot of you might have already tried. It's simply taking a hot bath or a hot shower before you go to sleep. You might have felt like after you take a hot shower at night that you can fall asleep so easily because you're all warm and cozy. Well, you're right on one part that you can probably fall asleep faster and easier, but it's not because you're warm and cozy. It's actually because your body temperature is dropping. So once you take a really hot shower, what's happening is all of the blood vessels on the surface of your skin are dilating. And once you step out of that shower, those dilated blood vessels will start to radiate all of that excess heat from your body out. So all of that internal heat from your body is now being released, and you're going to have a rapid drop in your core body temperature. And there's actually a study showing exactly what can happen to your sleep when someone takes a hot bath or a hot shower before bed. And they found that taking a hot shower before bed can actually induce about 10 to 15% more deep NREM sleep during your nighttime. Now, we talked a little bit about improving your sleep quality and a little bit about how you can stay asleep throughout the night and potentially sleep longer. But there are some other ways too that I want to talk about and how you can actually start to sleep a full 8 hours every single night. So your NREM sleep, which dominates more early, is really important for pruning off information. So it's basically like a filter, and it'll filter out any unnecessary information. And what's left after your NREM sleep, your REM sleep will take all that necessary information,